President Obama began a 10-day Southeast Asia trip last week. Today he's in India, touting a new trade policy with the world's largest democracy. Here's what he had to say.
And together we can resist the protectionism that stifles growth and innovation. The United States remains and will continue to remain one of the most open economies in the world. And by opening markets and reducing barriers to foreign investment, India can realize its full economic potential as well. As G20 partners, we can make sure the global economic recovery is strong and is durable. And we can keep striving for a Doha round that is ambitious and is balanced, with the courage to make the compromises that are necessary so global trade works for all economies.
In removing India's protectionist trade policies, President Obama claims 54,000 U.S. jobs will be created. Of course, the jobs are created by selling the only thing we still make in the U.S., military hardware and airplanes. Curiously, 200 American business leaders who have their own agenda have tagged along with Obama on this trip to Asia. They want to sell more stuff, but not made in the U.S., mostly made in China, in Indian retail stores, and are frustrated that Indian law only allows one company or one family to own 2 retail stores. Now they're using Obama's prestige to try to get that law blown up. As Walmart's CEO Michael Duke points out, more than 3 million jobs can be created in India if he can get their laws changed. That's 3 million jobs in India, not the U.S. After all, we no longer make most consumer goods in the United States. Just look at U.S. company Honeywell, which has already gone about creating Indian jobs. The company operates a facility in India employing 11,000 engineers and scientists. Honeywell CEO David Coate says his company has moved American engineering jobs to India because India has superior engineering. What they really have is cheap labor. So what do all of these products have in common? All of them are no longer manufactured in the United States. Obama is simply continuing the insane free trade policies of Reagan, both Bushes, and Clinton. Guess who warned about these free trade policies more than 15 years ago?
If you just want to get down to brass tacks, first thing you ought to do is get all these folks who've got these one-way trade agreements that we've negotiated over the years and say, fellas, we'll take the same deal we gave you. And they'll gridlock right at that point because, for example, we've got international competitors who simply could not unload their cars off the ships if they had to comply. You see, if it was a two-way street, just couldn't do it. We have got to stop sending jobs overseas. We're the biggest buyer of goods and services in the world. These are the phony exports down here. Here are the real exports here, about $7.7 billion. You take this thing into pieces, you take this big number here, and take it right down to here, and that's what you're really talking about. And just remember this.
Right, a two-way street. And that crazy old coot with the big ears and the charts and graphs, he had it right. And 19% of Americans knew it. You know, trade policies are a lot like membranes. A cell, if it loses its cell wall, dissolves and dies. If somebody strips all the skin off you, your body falls apart, you die. It's true of pretty much any living thing. Everything has membranes around it. So, for example, trade policies, trade laws are functionally a membrane around the economy of a country. And historically, I mean, like literally, going back 7,000 years ago to Samaria, going back in a really organized fashion to the 1400s, when King Henry VII, as I recall, it was 1485, laid out his Tudor plan, which was the first let's protect our domestic industry plan in the United Kingdom. He said, let's create a membrane around the UK. The principal export of the UK at that time was raw wool. It was literally a country without paved roads, without even cobblestone roads, of dirt roads and mud huts. And King Henry VII said, we're going to turn this into a modern industrialized country. And he threw up protectionist trade barriers around the UK. It worked. The UK turned into a giant powerhouse. Alexander Hamilton in 1791 said, let's clone that for the United States and propose it as his program on manufacturers for the United States. Let's put a membrane around the United States of protectionist trade policies. Sort of like a membrane in nature, kind of membrane on this corn of cob. And what happens when the membrane gets removed is the individual workers, these little kernels here, or maybe the more appropriate metaphor would be the membrane of the husk here, get exposed. So, you know, a few get flipped off to India, and a few go off to China, and pretty soon there's nothing left. Pretty soon they're ruined. Just to illustrate this example, President Obama goes all the way to India and says he's going to create 54,000 American jobs with free trade. What is it that we have that Indians want? We don't make televisions here in the United States. The last televisions we made were almost a decade ago. We don't make shirts here anymore in the United States. That was 8 years ago. We don't make Levi's here anymore, or basically any kind of jeans. That was almost a decade ago. We make nothing. Dell stopped manufacturing computers in January of this year. We don't even make computers. We make nothing. Except, this is from the Washington Post, an article by Scott Wilson this Sunday. The administration officials said the deals, including the sale of military transport aircraft, civilian aircraft, mining equipment, and jet engines, are worth $10 billion and support 54,000 American jobs. That's what we have to sell to India. Military hardware, basically, because we don't make anything else. Meanwhile, Emily Wax, writing in the Washington Post, this is amazing. Now just imagine this, painting a picture with words here. In a futuristic lab on a leafy information technology campus, an inventor showed off a power strip that calculates a household's carbon emissions for the environmentally conscious U.S. market. That's us. It's for us. In a research center nearby, rocket scientists worked on design for lighter, more aerodynamic wings for Boeing fighter jets. This was at Infosys Technology in Bangalore, Bangalore, India. And this is at Infosys, it's the second largest of India's technology companies. It's a $60 billion industry there. Emily Wax says later in the article, India's outsourcing industry was shaken last year when Obama said he wanted to change. Now, this is what he campaigned on. Quote, a tax code that says you should pay lower taxes if you create a job in Bangalore, India, than if you make one in Buffalo, New York. In other words, let's bring our jobs home. Not singing that song anymore. We really need to do it. We need to bring them back. Here's a comment that Ross Perot, just to wrap this up. The guy was prescient. He had it right. Here's what he had to say.
You can move your factory south of the border, pay $1 an hour for labor, hire a young 25, that's assuming you've been in business for a long time, you've got a mature workforce. Pay $1 an hour for your labor, have no health care, that's the most expensive single element making a car, have no environmental controls, no pollution controls, and no retirement, and you don't care about anything but making money, there will be a giant sucking sound going south.
And now it's gone east as well.